Welcome to Sambhashana, the newsroom series presented by the PR Hub. Every week, we bring in seasoned journalists from the newsroom to share perspectives on many related subjects like journalism, PR, communication, and many other related topics. We have with us Mr. Giri Prakash, who is a seasoned journalist of 35 years plus, who worked across sectors such as IT, airlines, automobile, and startup, and worked with renowned publications such as Business Standards, The Pioneer, Sunday Midday, The Hindu Business Line. He's also authored a book on the Vijay. Sir, welcome to the Newsroom series, and I'm so delighted to have you as part of this series. And I know for the weather conditions today, it's quite a task from there to here. So I'm really grateful that you've been able to make
Not
it.
at all.
And
I'm
sir,
actually very happy that I'm part of this. And
yeah, but then on that note, if you remember, you are an inspiration for the series to start. If you remember Sambhashana with Nilima, we started and we were wanted to
which
do
is
it
true. Yeah,
together. That was some Guinea talks or something that we did.
yeah.
And then we also recorded
One of them.
one of the episodes
yeah,
and which did not, take off.
Yeah.
But then you've been such an integral part, and I feel like it's home for also having known you from so many years. Such a pleasure, and I feel an honor to have you part of this for various reasons, for the kind of stories that you broke and the kind of investigative journalism that you've been doing. So today we're going to discuss all about that with all your amazing insights, and in the end we have a surprise element for you. I was very intrigued. You said that you have covered the Rajiv Gandhi assassination. What it was it like? Because those days there was no kind of digital media or social media. How did this happen, sir?
So after the assassination, the world's largest manhunt began
Yes.
for those who were the mastermind behind
Yes.
this. So
We'll go step by step. You were very much reporting from Bangalore only for that time.
yeah,
when
for
you...
midday. I was reporting for midday.
Okay,
And,
okay.
we had an edition in Sunday middays.
Yes.
Had an edition in Bangalore, and I was the news coordinator for that. So it was obvious that I sort of was doing this bit as well, and so the manhunt began, and I think generally the government knew that these 7 people who are behind this Shivras and Shubha and all that were hiding somewhere in India.
Yeah.
And they were tracking their movements all across. Camps of Sri Lankan Tamils that were set up near Muttatti, actually, which is the birthplace of Dr. Rajkumar.
Okay.
And it was on the banks of the Kaveri River. And so there was a lot of focus on that. So it so happened that I decided, one of my friends actually told me, another journalist told me that they are there, and why don't you just go there? If you really want a ground reporting kind of thing, why don't you go and talk to them? So one afternoon, I went to this Bangalore, the Majestic bus stand, and I was about to board the bus to Muttatti, and then before that, I told a friend of mine, called him up and told him that, there is this, so I'm going there, and let me know exactly where they are. There's no point in you going
At
there.
that point of time, there is a search for this man, and you never thought twice while going and meeting, because you'll be worried. No family.
No,
that.
journalists actually do 2 things first and then get scared. So this friend of mine who used to work for Indian Express, he told me that Giri actually looks like the manhunt has ended. And in South Bangalore, there's a place called Konankunte, and there is the cops believe that they are holed up in a certain house, and I think you should go there. Also going there.
Okay.
So I went in my kinetic Honda scooter, and I found that there was this house. Assuming this is the house, and this all around the place, everybody had encircled that house. Journalists, onlookers, everybody. There was another house joining that house.
Okay.
There, the black commandos also there. They were looking at that house, and they had they were ready to sort of get into that house, or they were ready with their guns and all that stuff. It so happened that so the another former colleague of mine in India, I met him. He's passed away, unfortunately. His name is N. Chakravarti. We call him Chakravarti. We used to call him
Okay.
Chakravarti. So I told him that I said this is just not possible because shooting is going to take place. People are going to get hurt. Do you really think that this people are holed up in this house? Action must be taking elsewhere, must be having elsewhere, because they don't want people to actually go to that place, and they want to do this quiet operation there. They just spread this rumor that these people are there, and he believed it. He said, "Yeah, there is a good possibility it might happen." So I said, "What we'll do is we'll go up to that house
Hmm.
and then find out ourselves." The easiest thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that time, it never occurred to us that anything would happen. So, what these people, this Shivarasan and Shubha, the mastermind behind the assassination, used to do was they used to get into water tanks and travel across the country.
Oh, okay.
So, the black cats knew that they were doing this.
This, okay.
And apparently, the lady who used to supply the milk tipped off the local police, saying that these people are suspicious. They speak in some language, maybe some Tamil language or something like that, and therefore, so she tipped them off, and she apparently so the entire focus shifted to that house. Now, what happened was that there was actually one water tanker which was going behind, which was going past that house and behind. And these people thought that they're going to get into that water tank and then escape. There was overnight rain, so there was a lot of slush, and that water tank got caught in that slush. So all these people went there and surrounded that water tank, and we found an opportunity to actually go to that house.
Okay.
And the typical Bangalore, there's a compound wall, gate, and all that, and in the middle there's a house. It was like that.
So I'll interrupt you. How old were you, sir, that time?
20s.
Early.
Yeah,
Okay,
around
all
in
right.
mid-20s maybe.
Okay.
Okay. And
Sounds very exciting, like a movie scene.
yeah, so what happened was, so we went there 6:30, like that in the evening. We went there and said, we shouted saying that, we want to meet you. So initially there was complete silence, and then we kept on asking, saying they want to meet you and all that. So inside they started speaking in Tamil. I don't know Tamil, and my friend knew Tamil, and he was interpreting it for me. He said they're discussing who these people are. And they assume that we are black cats and we are trying to enter plain codes, like And from inside they kept saying "poda, poda, poda" and all that. And I don't know a single word of Tamil. I said, "What is this? What are they talking about?" And we still believe that these are not the guys. I think one of them got frustrated and he came out and started took out his gun and started shooting at us. But if you have not seen a gun being shot, so and it's especially in the night, it looks like firecrackers. It gives that kind of a thing. And the immediate thing was, why is he busting firecrackers? Okay, I mean, you could call us as very naive, or you could call us as very stupid. But you go through these kind of journeys in your career. In hindsight, you think that we should have not done it. Then what happened was, we were there, and then suddenly we found one bullet just rushing past us. That's when we realized they were shooting at us. And then, fortunately, the entire ground, there was no. I mean, it was uneven, and we ran back, and there was a primary health center far away, and then we ran and then hid behind it, and so the black cats got alerted. There was an exchange of fire between the two. And I still don't remember the time. At 7:05, all of us heard one shot coming from that house. And after that, there was complete silence. And I waited for till 12 o'clock or something. Then I went home. My house was in East Bangalore, in Vivek Nagar. I went home, and at around 4 o'clock or something, then I went back. And by then, the black cats, or whatever you call them as, they had entered the house, and they found 7 bodies. Six of them had consumed cyanide. Seventh person, the Shurasan, that 7.5 shot that we heard, he had actually, killed himself with
Killed
that thing.
himself.
So we saw all the bodies being taken out. I could see Shubha, Shivarasan, all of them, and five others.
Oh, you went in.
We went inside, and all of us
okay.
could go inside and saw all the whole thing. And that's how the biggest manhunt ended. And but that was not over. The people, there was a couple who had actually who were associated with in some way to Shivarasan and Shubha, and they had given refuge to them. BMS Engineering College in Basangudi. Behind that, there are lots of houses. One of those houses where they stayed, they had given a refuge. I got to know that, and of course, I wrote about it as soon as, because midday is Sunday midday is a afternoon paper, so we are the first one to report it.
Yes.
Not because of anything else. It's just that it comes out, say, at around 11 o'clock or something. And all the other papers, all the newspapers had come out already. So they reported it next day.
Okay.
So that way we broke the story. But the fact is, it's just that the midday comes out in early afternoon.
Yes.
So that was one thing. And then of course, I went home, slept, and I wrote my article, slept, and then later apparently there was a press conference, and they were looking for these two gentlemen who had nearly barged into the house.
Yes.
The cop there, I think the DCP or police commissioner asked, who are these guys? And we weren't found. Obviously, I didn't want to go there and present myself, because the fact is that what happens in these situations is, unless they call me individually, why would I go and talk to them about it, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't call me, and I think everybody was relieved that these people had been found and no more and all that stuff. So that's how it happened. But later, I found out this couple, and then I used to go to their house and try. And one or two times I talked to them and all that, and I wrote articles about it. And then finally, I think the parents said that, please understand that everything is over now. If you keep interviewing them, cops will again come back to us. It's all over. Why are you after them? Sometimes you use that kind of a judgment, saying that, okay, let's leave it at that.
Just let
because if the cops have to catch them, they'll catch them. Yeah. It's not just because I wrote about it. I don't want to go and create more issues with them.
Sir, you have those articles with you today.
Yeah.
Sir, we will just show for the audience years old paper. Sir, thank you so much for bringing this news clip and showing. I'll read out a couple of lines, the audience to listen to this. This is a story. I'm going to show this to you all. And it all began, of course, when Giri heard the siege mounted on the LTT hideout in Bangalore. He landed up at the site when a colleague from a local paper and went straight to the building occupied by the CBI. You want to add something, sir?
Yeah. So, the interesting part, which came out later, was that there was a lot of doubt regarding whether these people were hiding in that place. Now we are being credited by the fact that actually we were the ones who got them out of their hideout. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know that these people were inside, because they came out and started shooting. So it got confirmed that these are the people who actually were there. So in some ways, while it's a good thing, it's also a bad thing that because of us, there was a shootout between the two and they got killed. Sometimes you feel that maybe, because you're part of the whole thing, sometimes you feel that, while you, as a journalist, you do a lot of these things, but things happen which you have no control of.
Yes. Sir, moving on from one incident to the another bigger story that you broke on the mid-air collision of two aircraft.
Charki Dadri,
yeah. How did that, what was your experience covering? Because news like this is very emotional, to even cover about it. What, can you also take us through that incident?
Yeah. So I was working for Business Standard in Delhi, and I was not doing the aviation beat. And but I in Pioneer, my previous job, I was doing the aviation sector. But when I joined Business Standard, there was already somebody who was doing it. But I had a lot of connections. I had connections with the air traffic control. And I went home at around 8:39, and then this happened. There were two aircraft actually collided in midair.
Yes.
And all of them died.
When I was doing a research about this, I just felt that how could something happen?
Yeah.
After that, they came out the report that there was even part of, because of their English communication skills, also this disaster happened.
I mean, that was another. I think one was a Russian one, another. I don't remember.
Yes.
The nationality of each airline.
Yes.
But
The
it did
flights were from Kazakhstan and then Saudi Arabia, Delhi, right? That's the flight. Yes.
I think a Russian, and there is that Arabic kind of thing, so they couldn't communicate properly. Or God knows what. So basically, so I went home and I got to know about it, and then I called up the ATC. I knew somebody in ATC, and they were the ones who were actually controlling the whole thing, right?
Yes, yes.
So I called this guy up, and he apparently came out. He said he gave me a complete vivid description of how it actually happened.
Okay.
All right, and what the ATC had to do and how it happened and all that. And then I called up my editor and told him, I spoke to this ATC guy. He said, come back to the office. And there was no, at that time, there were no laptops and all that, right? So I went back at around 8:39, and then I wrote that report, what happened, how it happened and all that. And it came out of the papers the next day. And of course, the accident was very tragic. But the good thing that happened was that I ended up getting the airline beat, because of the fact that I was able to get this. So one thing in journalism that I've learned is that you sustain relationships. You sustain relationships with your contacts all through your career.
All through your
Because
career.
you never know when one of them might be the most important person that you may have to get information from.
Yes. Adding to this, sir, I think even in PR for that matter, we have these connections. Like, for example, I'm just talking about you. I'm like, I don't know, in the last 1 year, I haven't come to you for any story, but still maintaining this relationship is so important, right? It's such an important thing for other PR professionals and anyone to learn that. It's all, I think, especially in PR, it's all about maintaining your relationships, right? Yeah.
So, and not just in journalism, I mean, you should actually maintain a relationship with your friends, relatives, your neighbors, not because they might come in handy at some point in time, but what it means is that the larger network you have, it's something that you might be useful for someone might be useful for you.
Yes. It's all about community.
Yeah, it's all about community and all that.
Yeah. So moving from these couple of big stories that you actually broke, you also saw on the corporate front also, you saw the rise of two huge giants, be it the IT giants, the Infosys and Wipro.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're experienced about this. Maybe a little bit of your insights, because those days they were really coming up, early 90s, right? They were actually starting up with. Did you even kind of interact with Mr. Narayan Murthy as well?
No, before that, I'll tell you another incident. I was in midday, and Muttappa Rai, the don who actually passed away.
Sir is giving out all little nuggets from your career. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So I decided to do a big feature on Muttappa Rai. He was a rising gangster at that time, and then he was actually had become more important than what was happening in Bombay at point in time. So I decided that I'll do a thing, and then I was wondering, how do I do it? Because I don't have that raw material. Like, obviously, Muttappa Rai is not on call, right? Someone told me that his wife, had given birth to a baby in a maternity home in Janagar, and I tracked her down. I met her. And she spoke to me. She actually spoke to me, and she talked about her husband. And obviously, she defended him and all that stuff. And but it was good, very interesting article. And I was very surprised that she actually spoke to me. And she could have said, "So I don't want to talk about it," because her husband is a gangster, right?
Yes.
So, but she spoke to me. It was very good, and I came back and wrote about it. It appeared. 2 days later, I get a call from Muttappa Rai's gang saying that, how could you have written an article like this? You don't know what you got into,
No.
and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and all that. Before I could even defend myself, they put down the phone. So at every, and I used to get those anonymous calls. I see around 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, and obviously landlines
Landline.
at home, right?
I think
And they
those
somehow,
90s.
and they knew my landline number. And one of them actually said, you have lady colleagues in your office, and let them come out. We're going to throw acid on the face. And what do you do? First of all, they will call, say this, put down. And you don't have no way to contact them again. And at the same time, there would be those anonymous calls. Like say, they'll ring, nobody would speak. Sometimes it's from the railway station, sometimes it's from the bus stand. It went on for nearly 2-3 months. Okay. And I used to send pack off my lady colleagues at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Said, don't be around when it's daylight. Go back home. Then, fortunately for me, one day this guy calls up and he starts threatening me again. I said, I mean, I'm not given to shouting and all that. I actually shouted back. I said, you've been saying, oh, at least listen to me for 1 minute. That's good enough. I said, have you read the article?
Okay.
He said, no, but others have told me that you've written something wrong. I said, see, I've spoken to Muthaparai's wife, and read that article. He said, you've spoken to Muthaparai's wife? I said, yeah. Okay. He left it at that. After that, there were no calls.
Okay. So for me, I think listening to all your insights, it's looking like a scene out of the movie. And it's a little scary as well.
I'll tell you, there are hundreds of journalists across the country who have gone through similar things.
This one.
They've gone through
More
worse.
than this.
Yeah.
But
they have taken on bigger entities. This is Muthaparai and Shivaras, and they have taken on some very big corporate houses and have lived to tell a tale.
It is like,
Yeah.
I know it's some kind of a mental trauma also when you keep getting these calls.
Yeah, it was
right?
for 3 months.
It is. Okay. Thank you so much for, sharing this and then we getting to know the insights about it. Like, can we, a little bit of your corporate, your experience in terms of covering these, Infosys and Wipro?
So again, I'll tell you about my pioneer days. The Infosys used to come out with an annual report. That annual report was more like a coffee table book.
Yes, I heard.
They would be pictures of Madhuri Dixit and like that. There were quite a few, Amitabh Bachchan and all that. And they would relate to that. They would connect it with whatever that they are doing. It was a collector's piece.
Okay.
So I used to also get it, and I told my editor saying that. So every year in December, every newspaper comes up with what has happened during the year and who are the people, who are the rising stars, who are all that they come up with. So in Pioneer also, my editor said that we're going to do it. He said, okay, Giri, each one of us were given identify 4 or 3 people whom you think will do very well and all that. So I said, Infosys is there and they're going to be the rising stars and they are the ones who will, I think they hold a lot of promise. So my editors listened to me and they said, Giri, I'm not too sure on this. Who are these guys? What is software and all that stuff? I said, no, sir, you should take it.
Okay.
So he said, okay, fine. You're saying it, we'll take one small single column. From there and where they are now.
Yes.
Okay. From 1990s to 2024, we will completely changed. And then when I came back to Bangalore, the same editor called me up and said, go to Narayan Murthy's house. I want one big feature about them.
What was it like interacting with Mr. Narayan Murthy?
So I went to his house. That was in Jayanagar, and very down-to-earth man. And he and his wife, Sudha Murthy, welcomed me home. And we had tea and all that stuff. And he spoke a lot. He spoke to me, and his wife was already a novelist. She gave me some 3-4 novels that she has written in Kannada. She said, you should give it to your mother and you give me your feedback, I mean, how it was. I was like bowled over by them, and, very humble, very nice human beings. I must give them the credit that today, if the onus is on talent and on meritocracy, it came from there. Infosys was one of the pioneers in that. They not only gave away wealth and made them partners in their company, they also made it very clear that if you do well in your education, you're going to get a job.
Yes.
You know, that day, that perception about that you need influence to get a job changed completely with them. And today, there is this hope for every Indian that if he does well in his education, he's surely going to get a job. And they were the ones who, you know, that led to a paradigm shift in the way employment growth happened. Earlier, it was only public sector undertakings.
Yes.
But they changed it in the private sector. You could actually, you know, get the best job all because you had merit backing you. And it's, I think, the biggest contribution to this aspect, you know, was created by Mr. Narayan Murthy and his team.
And that's why they put India and you know, on the global map,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I think they've completely changed the narrative for India, you know,
absolutely.
from the lens of the IT to begin with, because that's where the boom happened, right, sir?
And then, you know, it also showed that if you're honest, sincere, you could get the work done. All right. There are, of course, quite a few other stories, but let's not get into all that. But the fact is that if you work hard, there is a prize at the end, and they
Nothing
made
can
that
replace
clear.
hard work. I think if you
So one day, I remember asking one of the CEOs of one of the companies in some. There was this evening dues that you have, and I asked him, and it all started from Kormangla, right? There were 10 or 15 of them, like IT services companies. I said, how come Infosys among all this has made it big? The others haven't.
Because of the culture.
Because of the culture.
Yeah.
You know, because not just because of the culture, because of the fact that Mr. Narayan Murthy and his team made it very clear that you're going to be partners in our growth. I will not see you as I am way above you. All of us are going to work together as a team, right? And then if we create wealth, you're going to be part of that through ESOPs, you know, employee stock options.
Yeah.
And then he made millionaires out of them. The driver.
Yes.
Was you know, he also was part of that wealth, and he was also a millionaire. Like that, several of them.
Yes.
Right, and he said this is the reason, and he said he set tough standards, and he saw to it that each of them actually you know, came up to that standard. There's always a difference between hundreds of companies and one company which actually succeeds. Right. So
right. I know. I think when you start, you know, interacting with these kind of people, you will kind of, you know, learn so much from them.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Journalism teaches you a lot.
Yes.
I mean,
sir, primarily you've done a lot of investigative journalism. Another one thing that I would want to touch upon is the Air India and the Boeing story that you kind of reported, right?
Yeah.
Can you just give us some nuggets from that?
So, Air India and Indian Airlines had not been privatized at that time, and I used to report a lot on them. And I remember that they went in for purchase of aircraft. And so there are two big commercial aircraft manufacturers, Airbus and Boeing. And earlier, what had happened was that this was the big one after the Airbus crash in Bangalore. And government of India had actually stopped buying aircraft, and so there was a lot of money involved. So they went and decided that they're going to go ahead and look for this, and then I remember that I managed to get a copy of the. So obviously there's a selection committee and all that, and they are the ones who actually decide which aircraft manufacturer should get this order.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Order.
So both would have gone in for a tender and all that. Fortunately for me, I got a copy of that.
Okay.
And I remember, and then I got a copy of that, and so there was this person in Air India whom I used to go and meet often, and he once told me that, you know, this is being done, and I took a promise from him saying that the day the panel decides They got to give me a copy of it.
Okay.
And I don't know whether he was nice to me or happy with me. I have no idea. And he ended up giving it to me.
Okay.
Okay, I won't be able to name that person. He was very big in the organization, and then he gave me the copy, and then I put that out. And I remember Financial Times of London calling me up and saying that, can you give us more information, details, and all that. So I was very happy that this article came out.
Nice, nice. When I was reading through your profile and all that, you got to work with some two amazing, very well-known people in the industry, journalism, Mr. Vinod Mehta and Tynan.
Yeah.
So, how was it working with them?
So after midday, I joined the Pioneer in Delhi. I was mentioned the name of my boss, Paranjay Gorakathakurta, who's now a very big figure. And I used to go and meet him. He was in India Today and all that stuff. And I got to know that he had joined as the business editor of the Pioneer. And I met him. And by that time, Pioneer had already established its name. And Mr. Vinod Mehta had brought in this culture of being the second paper. So if you buy Hindustan Times, you also buy the Pioneer. If you buy in Times of India, you also buy the Pioneer, because Pioneer was a paper that did not break great stories, but those what you call as trend stories and all that added a bit of it. It made a bit of lighter reading, but at the same time very entertaining. So there was a lot of politics. And there was a lot of stories about everything else, accidents, violence, and crime reporting. This added to it. So he's the one who brought in that second newspaper. Today, it has been incorporated in all newspapers. But he was a pioneer there, and he had built a reputation for himself with the Debonair and Sunday Observer and all that. So obviously, I was really attracted to it. Fortunately for me, Paranjay gave me the job. Somewhere along the way, he must have thought that because I used to go and meet him quite often, and I used to work with Midday and all that. And I worked with some great editors. There was Nikhil Lakshman, who used to head, the Midday, and people who. What happens if you work with these editors? It helps you to break into other newspapers as well. So I joined the place. And I think that's why he's so different, right? So I remember that a week after I joined, Paranjay called me up and said, "Giri, I want you to meet the editor." Can you believe it? Editor had no role in me joining that thing. Had left it to the departmental heads to hire and fire people.
Okay.
All right. That was the best thing. Then I obviously went and met him. He said, "How is Nikhil doing?" And that's it. That's all the conversation happened. So what it shows is that he delegated responsibilities.
Okay.
And then he also held them responsible for it. That's the best thing that happened. That's why Pioneer became so famous at that point in time.
One learning from this is what I've seen. If you're a leader, the one way you grow up is only when you delegate that you can grow up, right? Otherwise, you continue doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? That's a
See,
nice
for example, at the edit meetings that used to happen around 11:30, as an editor, he would be the last one to speak. And there was a bit of a riot every day in the morning. Everybody arguing it out, and everybody trying to fight for space, saying that my story is better, this story is better, that photograph is better, this photograph is better. The photographers came into prominence because of the Pioneer, because he used to give them that kind of space, right? And then finally, obviously he would take decision, but it was a very collective decision without having even gone through that kind of process, saying that I'm the one and all that. So those 1 hour, half an hour, 45 minutes meeting, Vinod Mehta would speak the least and let others speak. So what came out of that Amrit Manthan, as you call it, was one of the finest stories, right? Yeah. And the next morning, everybody wanted to read Pioneer.
Okay. Yes.
That was the good thing about him. And he backed you. I remember there was some issue with the aviation secretary. There was some politics behind it. And I think he wanted to be the... there was a secretary who wanted to be the aviation secretary, and he connected with Paranjay and told him that asked Giri Prakash to go and meet him. And this is a fantastic story to write and all that. And what do? I know that obviously I have no connections. I was new to Delhi and all that, but I knew where his office was. And I barge into the office, and the secretary is there, and I lie to the secretary, and I tell him that I lie to the secretary. I mean, I'm talking to this private secretary, and tell him that I had an appointment with him. I want to meet him and all that. So this guy calls up the secretary. He's a bureaucrat, IS officer. So this fellow says, I don't know who Giri Prakash is, but out of curiosity, he says, I'm having a meeting right now. Ask him to stay. And I went there, and I think he realized there's something. This is a journalist, and there's some issue there. And he knew that, obviously he knew that this was happening, right? Because he was part of this whole thing. He says, I don't want to meet Giri Prakash. I don't want to meet this journalist. So I told the private secretary, I'll just go in and come out in 1 minute.
Okay.
So as soon as the other guy who was having a meeting with him came out, I just barged into the office, into his room. I said, I don't remember his name now. I said, I just want to talk to you for 2 minutes. Just tell me whether you have formally applied to become the civil aviation secretary, right? He said, who told you this? That was good enough for me.
Okay.
He said, I won't talk to you about it. I said, fine. I came out.
Being a typical journalist, you got what you wanted.
So the point is that when I wrote the story, this person actually called up the editor and told him, this is not done. You shouldn't do this. I mean, he tried to pressurize. Okay. Some other bureaucrats also called up in the meta and told him, but he ran the story.
Okay. Sir, 36 years being in a journalism is a long way. I'm like, since this is a newsroom series, I just want you to just give us a little insight about what exactly, from your days newsroom to what is the changes. Can you just give us that? How has it been the long way from what it used to be then and now?
So, when I joined Indian Express, that was my first job, formal first job, I must say. There was no technology, right? Technology was absent. And, group of journalists like us have seen newspapers grow from having nothing to do with technology, everything to do with technology. We are the only ones who have seen that transition happen.
Yes.
Right? Mm. And so in many ways, we are in a very unique position, right? So I remember Indian Express being, the way it was printed, the way it was put together. Right. There used to be something called bromides, which was actually, and then they would cut and paste on a white sheet of bromide, and then it would get into the printing press, and the copies of that would get into the newspaper print and all that. So so that way we know about it. We know how hard it was, and you couldn't get it wrong. Today, everything is done on the net. Everything is done on your laptop or computer. So you have the capacity to change at the very last minute. For example, if this is WRONG, and if it is saying WORNG, you can make those changes. At that time, you could not make those changes. You could not.
Once printed.
So you had to be perfect.
Yes.
There was no other thing. Otherwise, the next morning, everybody will get to know how wrong you were.
Yes.
Right? Yes. But it's also true. The journalism is one thing where you get immediate results, right? If you committed a mistake, morning, you get to know what an idiot you were, or you get to know that you have done a great job. No other profession gives you that kind of feedback immediately. Okay, a lot of things can be done in other professions. Here, you can't do that.
Okay, I know that.
You can't fix a bug.
Okay, all right.
Right, you don't have the freedom.
That kind of luxury that you never had those days.
You don't have that luxury to fix a bug at all.
Yes. Sir, summarizing your entire career, you said that you've got to see both the sides of it. This, according to you, when you got to cover, the best of best stories, and you've got your bylines just there and all. Yeah. In this, before even we move to the PR front, a little bit of just there, I just want to understand what this 30 years, 36 years, mean for you.
One thing that I've seen over the years is that it teaches you it teaches you humility. You realize that some of the biggest names in the industry, either in the corporate sector or celebrities or politicians, um, they may be riding high at one point in time, but if they don't handle themselves well, they will crash land. You could talk about a political person, you could talk about an institution, you could talk about a company or a corporate house. I have seen several of them just vanish just because they didn't get certain things right. Right? So, um, so that teaches you a lot of humility. You realize that nothing is permanent.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And therefore, um, it is very, very important to have a perspective to every issue.
Okay.
And that's the biggest lesson that I've learned, having been a journalist for 36 years. I know of editors, I know of politicians, I know of corporate entities, I know of CEOs who have fallen from grace, and they were flying high at one point in time, and they just vanished.
I know. Right, right. Another thing what I wanted to ask you is, have these two questions together due to the, time factor. For a journalist to be an investigative journalism, to get into that, what according to you is, the key skill sets that for the new age journalist to bring in?
Curiosity. You have to be curious, and you have to really love the profession. See, I'm not sure of the other professions because I'm not got in there. But I know journalism is all about getting up in the morning and reading a newspaper.
Okay.
And leaving everything else. Let anything happen to the world. You're always looking for that newspaper guy to come and then drop the newspaper at your doorstep. You read various newspapers. You're engrossed in it. And then you suddenly start thinking about various things that you can do. If you're not passionate about journalism and if you're not curious, you can't be a journalist.
I think that
it is
holds
not
good
like
for
some
our
job where,
profession.
oh, great. It's like, I really, I'm just looking for money. If you're looking for money, then you can't be a journalist.
Okay.
So I mean, you could say the same thing about other professions as well. As far as journalism is concerned, this is what I feel. It is something that drives you every day, every morning. Reading a newspaper is must.
And
I've been a visiting professor for a journalism school, and I know that students, if they don't turn up without reading a newspaper, it doesn't make sense to teach them at all. So
yes, I think with whatever you said, even it holds good to the PR professionals also.
It's all about communication.
Yes, yeah. So another thing, you touched upon a very important thing about relationships, right? And there are many instances where I have come and met you, those days like barged into your office and they're just trying to understand, do you also get those kind of calls and meetings with the PR people now? Just wanting to know.
Now I don't do reporting.
Okay.
I don't do this daily reporting or thing. But I still get calls.
Okay.
Saying that, would you like to? No. The fact is, see, that's another thing. This is what I say, that I still get calls saying that, would you like to meet this person, that person, and they still think that I am with my previous job.
Oh, that is the
So you need a lot. PR people have to update themselves.
Okay.
So that apart, but they still say no. Don't bother about the fact that you don't work for this or that, but you still like to meet because the CEO wants to meet and all that. But of course, obviously say that it doesn't make any sense because you're wasting his time more than mine.
Yes.
And nothing will come out of my meeting him.
Okay.
So
it's like do a little bit of research. What is that you're writing now, and then approach.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I work for for a publication online, digital publication, which I do analysis and kind of stuff. So I really don't do this daily
Okay.
kind of reporting and all that. But that way, yes, I still get calls, but that's for a very different reason.
Okay. All right. We got the message there. Sir, another important thing is you have handled in and out crisis, what you say, situations, and, you've handled in the journalism front of it. Now, PR professionals who are handling this crisis situation, how do you think they should approach when they have a crisis in keeping the brand image as well intact at the same time?
So you should think like a journalist. Um, a journalist communicates. You also are part of that, right? So there is this. I do agree that there have been issues earlier, and then journalists are very suspicious of PR agency, and they feel that they're an irritant rather than partners. This has to change. This perception has to change. In some cases, it has, but in most of the cases, it hasn't. I know, people have to visit newspaper offices, spend time with journalists, and see where they can help them. I've had these kind of discussions with PR agencies. Some of them have called me to address them and all that. So, what I've told them is that, you see, please understand something, that you need to have an ongoing relationship with journalists.
Journalist, yes.
Not just because you want to push a press release, or you want to have an RBM meeting, or you want to have a one-to-one meeting. Even if these things are not there, just go and meet them.
Yeah.
Talk to them. I also gone to the extent of saying that if there is a company which wants to give gift, and if they really want to give a gift, give them a subscription for a newspaper or a book. Because it helps the journalists, right?
Okay.
Why do you want to give them either cash or some electronic item or whatever that you want to give? It's of no use to them. Give them something that adds to their profession, to whatever that they are doing, if you really want to give them a gift.
Okay.
And I'm completely against giving gifts, but assuming that they really want to, give them a book or a subscription, or give them, share with them certain research reports, right?
Got that.
And because it will help them in their profession.
When we do an RBM or we do an interview, primarily the narratives are controlled by the journalists, we all know. Here I would want you to give us some kind of tips, when the narrative is just being, created to get your client's perspective. What are the things that we need to feed the journalist so that at the end of the day, the client is also happy, the journalist is also happy, and we get what we want in the newspaper? Some kind of those minute little skill sets or some kind of things that you can share with us, which will help us to, create this information giving better to them.
The PR fraternity should do the same kind of research journalists do,
Okay.
and that's very important. If you don't do that, then you fall short of their expectations. And also, please understand, there's been a paradigm shift in the way journalists work,
Yes.
journalism work.
Yes.
Okay, today there are integrated newsrooms. There are sub-editors who are on the desk who actually edit. They are the ones who actually write, rewrite, copy, call up their sources or call up companies and all that. And they are the ones in the mornings who actually push stories. While the reporters maybe initially take a backseat, but later in the day, they are filing bigger news and all that. And today what has happened because of the internet, if there's a news break, an hour later or even half an hour, 45 minutes later, there's a news analysis that comes. It used to happen 2 days later, 1 day later, earlier, but now it happens immediately.
Immediately. That's another
which
challenge
means,
that we are.
So do PR people know that? Do they know that these things happen? Are they tuned into these kind of things? It's not just good enough to say that. So let's assume there is a news break. Huh? For example, Ratan Tata passed away. An hour later, half an hour, 45 minutes later, there's already an analysis. So when you're and this is very important, you see PR people pushing their agenda previous day or 3 days later about saying that, sir, there's a CEO who wants to speak to you, right, about his company, or some big CEO and all that stuff, and uh, and then you refuse and all that, and you say, no, I'm not interested and all that. When Ratan Tata passes away, they should know that this journalist will need quotes
Yes.
from the same CEO.
Yes.
Why don't they get in touch with the CEO and tell him that, can you give us three lines, 4 lines uh, about your opinion of Ratan Tata, what kind of a figure he was, and all that stuff. This has nothing to do in promoting your agenda. But imagine if you do that. I know that I will next time I have an interaction with you, it will be much better.
I know. And also, it's a larger industry story
Yeah.
wherein your client is just getting featured.
Yeah, yeah.
And there is there is huge possibility in the future
Yeah.
that you will also have, another
Yeah.
opportunity.
For example, the editor might ask you saying that, can you do a podcast? Can you do a video
Yeah.
interview with a CEO, a big CEO who knows about Tata, who has met him and all that? No, we are looking around. Nobody is willing to talk to us.
Yes.
This is where PR people come. Sir, we will be able to do it for you.
Yeah,
We will
right.
fix it up something. Like I'm talking of big conglomerates, CEOs and all that. If you work together, things will happen. But then if you see, no, this is my agenda, my client's agenda, I only want to push that. And then if the journalist reaches out to you for something like this, they say, no, sir, the CEO doesn't want to speak because he's not interested in speaking. He's not.
So there is always give and take. You give me and then
yeah. So when you do that,
Huh.
the journalist also say, okay, fine. You are going to be like this. I'm also going to be like this.
Okay, got that.
Right?
That. Yes.
So you should actually be telling your clients that, you see, look at the whole picture. Here, we are establishing a good relationship with the journalist, and it's not just about your company. Please
Yes.
remember that.
Yes.
Because you have a longer relationship with the journalist, good things will happen. But then you just want to push your agenda, a lot of good things won't happen.
Got that. Got that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving all these, small insights or nuggets, which will really help us, to be more successful in lessening the gap between this. Another, before we end up this and move to that surprise element section, how did the web series for your book happen? So, like, I was very excited when I, read that, and then you said that. Also, you have authored a book on the Vijay Mallya. Maybe a little bit of that, and then we wrap up with how did this happen? The web series.
So I tell you how it happened. So there was this editor of the Hindu called Siddharth Vajrajan, who now has launched his own digital publication. And he was a man with full of ideas. And I used to work with the financial daily of the Hindu, which is called Business Line. So apparently, he wants to start a feature where he features something very important, some important personality or some important event during the past week. And that would be the Sunday edition. It would appear right on the front page and all that. So that was a very unique kind of thing. So he wanted to launch that with Vijay Mallya, because at that time, Vijay Mallya was like making news for all the wrong reasons. And apparently, he called up a few people, his resident editors across the country, and said, who will do it and all that. So he said, Vijay Mallya is from Bangalore, right? Called up the resident editor in Bangalore. I said, who would be doing it? And there's a friend of mine who also was working with them, and he said, Giri Prakash is the one who actually tracks him on a daily basis. Why don't you talk to him? So he called me up and said, can you write it? I said, how many words? He said, how many words you want, write it. And that's a great thing for a journalist. so I mean, I started writing at 6 o'clock, and I ended up around 7:38 and all that. I wrote whatever I knew about him, and then sort of he edited it a bit and all that, and then and I forgot about it because I didn't know that this was his agenda, like that every Sunday this will appear and all that. So next morning, it was Sunday. This happened on, because, it was a Saturday and Sunday features. And I forgot about it. And obviously, you don't read the Hindu because it's not a financial daily, right? So you said, okay, fine, I'll read Economic Times, Business Times, and all that. This Sunday I got up at 7:30 and then read all the newspapers and kept quiet. Then uh, then I went back to my phone and I found there's some 30 messages, people calling me and all that stuff. Then he said, "Have you seen the Hindu? Have you seen this?" So he said, "Yeah, what happened?" All that. He said, "You must see the Hindu." So I saw the Hindu and I went around looking for what is happening. I didn't even see the front page. So then I saw the front page. It's there right on top, saying the rise and fall of something. I don't remember the headline. Having yeah, one of their brands having that on the rocks is great, but something to do with how the airlines has fallen and
Yes,
all that
yes.
stuff. That happened, and it got a lot of hits. And the Hindu had to actually say that, enough of it, and then we're going to put a stop to all your feedback and letters to the editor.
Okay.
And I never realized that my story, I could actually do this. And I obviously went on with life. And then finally, the Penguin, which is a publishing house,
Yeah.
Penguin Random House, one of the editors there called up and said, this author of this article, can you write a book?
Oh,
And
okay.
and that time,
Did you interact with Mr. Malia for your book?
I did. I mean, I used to interact with him on a regular basis and all that.
Yeah.
So he said, "Can you do this?" And obviously, I said yes. And this was one of the first few non-fiction books on a corporate entity. Now everybody writes about it, but at that time,
you were
this was
like,
one of the few things, right? And then I called up Mr. Malia and said, "I'm going to." He said, "Giri, I can't be part of it because I'm writing a book on my own." I said, "You write your book. It'll give whatever mileage it wants to give. And why don't you just tell me?" I said, "No. When I write that book, its circulation shouldn't fall and all that." I said, "Mr. Malia, you are writing a book. I am writing a book. I can't do anything about it." And he said, "No, no, no. If I'm not helping you out, nobody in my office will help me out." I said, "Okay, what can I do about it? But I want to write the book. Do whatever you feel like." So I wrote that book, and there were people who helped me a lot without informing him. There were people who said, "Please get a formal permission. Only then will we talk." And which is ridiculous. I found it here. What exactly? This is how it happens in India. There were people who would fix up an appointment and not turn up. And there were people who would say, "I will never talk to you," and talk to me for 3 hours. And at that time, Google and all that were not prominent. And then so I had to actually somehow manage to, and I had very less budget. The office didn't give me leave. I had very less budget. And fly down to Kolkata, where most of the action happened, or to Bombay or to Delhi was just not possible. So I relied heavily on old newspaper reports, and then got it authenticated from people whom I knew. So there was a bit of criticism saying that this book is full of reference material from newspapers and all that. But I can't help it because
with the limited resources that
not just because of that. I wasn't born when Vittal Malia was the editor, was the owner of thing. Because if you have to write about Vittal Malia, whom can you write about?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you go and talk to them, right? He's not there, right? And people are not talking to you. And I had to rely heavily on those old newspaper reports, but I got it authenticated, and then I put it together. And this was my first book. And writing a first book is very, very difficult. Now I can write it, but earlier it's the most difficult thing to write for anybody. A first time author of the first book that you write, very difficult to navigate because you don't know which ones to use information, which ones not to use. But I ended up writing that book. And I remember at that time, a book on Sahara came, and it went to the court. ISRO dragged him to court, and the author had huge problems because the case was filed in the Kolkata High Court, and he had to actually fly down at a day's notice and all that. He lost a lot of money. And then the Penguin Random House agent, the person called me up and said, "Giri, we are not going to have a formal launch." Right? And that's because of all these things and all that. So it never had a formal launch.
Oh, okay.
But
it's out there available, right? The book
it's available, but it's now 10 or 12 years, 11 years old.
But then how did the web series
So what happened was that this person who was my editor for that in that Penguin, he called me up and said, "I'd like to buy the rights from Penguin, and I will sell it to one of the production houses." So I called up Penguin and I said, "I would like to." He said, "Why do you want to give it to somebody else? We will also do it." So that's how it happened. I obviously gave away my rights for audio and video. It still hasn't come out
Okay.
because of a variety of reasons which I don't want to talk about.
Okay.
But there is a good possibility that it might.
Okay.
I'm eagerly awaiting that.
Wishing you all the very best for this, and thank you so much for sharing all your inspiring stories that you've covered over the years. And we'll move on to the next segment. So thank you so much. This is signature round. What we're going to do is you're going to hit it on the dartboard, okay? And the more you move away from the bullseye, the question will be a little tricky question. And we have 5 questions for this round, and that's why this is a signature round.
Okay.
So can we start?
Yeah, sure.
The current book you're reading?
Is about the, I can't remember the title, but it's about the caste system in India.
Okay. So you've traveled extensively. Name one of your favorite country.
Rome.
Okay, that's nice. Go to another one. That's a close one, sir. This is apt. If a web series is made on you, who do you want to cast for the role?
You're giving me that celebrity status.
Next one. All is very clear, sir. Your shots are very good. Okay. So, one PR excuse that you listen very often.
He's traveling. The CEO is traveling. Looks like he's traveling 365 days in a year.
Okay. All right. The last one. Okay.
Okay.
That's a very close. We've got everything. Sir, one journalist that you would want to barter with. It could be anything that you would want to barter.
Parts of it. My Nikhil Lakshman, who was it?
So only one journalist you should say, sir, which you feel you can want to put it on the top.
No, I can't say that. I'm sorry. I'll have to say all this because it's actually a tribute to each one of them. Nikhil Lakshman was my editor in Midday. His great news sense, his friendliness, he made you feel as if he was a good friend of you than as an editor. I'd like to take that aspect of him. Number 2 was Mr. Vinod Mehta. He brought out the best in you without making you look like he's the editor and we are working under him. And some of those offbeat stories, trend stories, he had an eye for that, and I will take that. And Mr. T.N. Nayanan for his professionalism. Not only is he a great economist, but he's a great professional. And if you wanted to learn ethics, morality from him, that was him, right? And Mr. Venugopal, who was the first editor of Hindu Business Line, where I worked the longest in terms of kindness, kind human being, a lot of humility in him. And he again brought out the best in you, and he never made it look like he's the editor and I was reporting to him. And he was ability to spot talent. And one common thread among all of them was that each one of them made you feel as if you're his friend rather than a boss employer-employee relationship kind of thing.
It was very nice. Thank you for sharing all this, sir. Sir, it's been great having you.
Yeah,
and thank you so much.